and welcome to our Skill of the Month Club in combination with talks and tutorials. We're also going to do some chats. Yay! So please welcome my friend and neighbor, Johanna.
Hi.
She lives quite close to me, and she also lives off the grid. And she's in your first year, is that right?
Yes.
Their first year of living off the grid. She has a larger family than I do, and they're earlier in their process. So I thought it might be fun for those of us who appreciate hearing about off-grid living to hear our conversations about our different experiences.
Yeah. So we've been up there since October, and we have 5 children. And we're working on it.
And they're great. They're actually so much better prepared than Nick and I were. Personality differences come into play here. Because for Nick and I, it was so much running away from a lifestyle that wasn't working for us and kind of searching blindly into finding something that would work. Johanna's been very prepared. She's had a lot of plans, an idea of what needed to happen. So she's actually better set up right now after just a couple months.
We ran to it.
Right.
So.
But we're not going to go too much into their off-grid story today because this is the Skill of the Month Club. We're in the first month. January is planning and preparedness. Today, Johanna and I are going to share some ideas about food storage and particularly the why of food storage. Why this might be something you would want to do or a skill you would want to have in your life. Please remember that for me, the Skill of the Month Club is just an agenda for all of us to share information. So you'll hear Johanna's way of doing things, my way of doing things, and we strongly encourage you to share your ideas as well in the comments below. Food storage. Why should we do it? I'm going to put you on the spot. What's your first why for food storage?
The first why for doing it is so we live 10 miles out of the way, and we have to cross 3 bridges to get to our house. What happens if the snowplow doesn't get here? Mm-hmm. What happens if, heaven forbid, someone goes off the road and blocks traffic, which happens for like 3 to 6 hours. Mm-hmm. And you were planning to go to town because you go to town every day to eat food. It's nice to be able to open the cupboard and be like, I have 5 meal options that I can do for my family who's hungry now.
Yeah. So what Johanna's talking about here is preparedness. So some of you may consider yourself preppers or may not consider yourself preppers, but I just want to open us up to talking about the kind of wide range of things we're talking about when we talk about preparedness. Certainly there's a possibility of an SHTF scenario, a kind of disaster scenario, and that's something that a lot of people have in the back of their heads when they're thinking about food storage. But for me in particular, and it sounds like maybe for Johanna as well, sometimes it's the very normal disasters that we're preparing for, the almost guaranteed disasters of just ordinary life, right?
So true. So true.
And one of the things that kind of happens to everybody at some point is a change in your financial circumstances. So that's one thing that I would think about when you're thinking about food storage or preparedness. How secure is your income and output there as far as money goes? And is it worthwhile, or is there some reason to have something laid by, something stored that you could have in case there was a change, right?
Yes. So a couple of things I wrote down were an accident. Mm-hmm. I mean, we've got snow and ice. We fall down, we break our leg. What happens if our husband falls down and breaks their leg?
Right.
Financial situations change. Mm-hmm. And not everybody has Aflac.
Right? Yeah. So there you go. There's a couple things to not necessarily think in terms of a gloom and doom attitude, but just being prepared for all eventualities, right?
So true. Yeah. So one of the things once you have some food storage is it gives you flexibility on what you can eat.
Mm-hmm. Wait, how is that? How does it give you flexibility?
Well, you get to open the cupboard and you've got 5 different options of vegetables that are already there.
Right.
You're able to do your meat and potatoes or whatever you have, and you've got 5 different options of veggies.
Right.
Which is good when you feel like you're at the bottom end of your food supply.
Right. So I'm going to tell a story on myself about food storage. So when I first got into the idea of lifestyle change, anybody who's been tracking me realizes that I made a big swing from being someone who didn't cook at all, never prepared a meal that wasn't right out of a box or right out of a takeout box. So when I started to look for a more self-sufficient way of living in which I could really see where my food was coming from and feel some kind of satisfaction in the preparedness, I used to go to a farm. This is when I was living in Boston, or living in the outskirts of Boston. I used to go to a farm to get my raw milk and my CSA vegetables. And on the day that I had to make that long drive with my 2 little children, I wouldn't have any food prepared because I was trying to prepare everything from scratch. And so I literally gave my kids microwave dinosaur chicken on the day that I was going to the CSA because I didn't have something that I could give them.
Something prepared.
Right. And I'm not judging dinosaur chicken. Some of you are doing dinosaur chicken. I might occasionally as well. But you can see how there was a real disconnect between what I was trying to accomplish and what I was able to accomplish. I needed fast food. And believe it or not, your food storage can be fast food, faster than you think. I have some things in the pantry that I literally pour into the pan, heat it up, and it goes on the table. I think that's something that's really saved me in terms of being able to connect the dots between what I was trying to accomplish and what I was really capable of. Right?
So true. Yeah,
Right.
One of the staples at our house that we buy and we have extra of is tortillas, because they don't go bad quickly. They can sit on a shelf for over a month, and they just sit. But one of the things that we've canned and prepared is beans. So all I do is dump it out, smash it up, add a couple seasonings, and we have instant protein that the whole family will eat.
Right, so when we do pressure canning, we're going to have Johanna on. She's good at pressure canning. But I do beans too. Yeah, same idea.
Yeah, so
Right.
really, really easy.
Right, so there's a couple reasons. We've been through this kind of sense of preparedness, preparing for all eventualities, and we've been through this idea of flexibility. Maybe in some ways having that food in your cupboard is actually easier and not harder.
Yeah, so one of the ways that it's easier is I don't have to go to the store every other day. So I can go, I'm going to the store once a week. And once a week with no refrigerator, because I'm off grid, is about all you can get with some things. It's just the way it is. So, but once a week is a lot better than going every day.
Absolutely. So not all of you are going off-grid or even intending to go off-grid, but even if you're looking for a more rural lifestyle, possibly moving out of the cities, you need to recognize that it's expensive to drive in and out to make your town drives. And so it's advantageous not only for your time and your stress levels, but also for your finances to think about consolidating those trips and having things on hand. These are a lot of good stuff. You have more on your list then. What else is on your list?
It reduces the cost of meals.
Reduces cost. Okay, so how does that work?
Well, I can buy things in bulk, which is a bigger quantity, and it's much less expensive.
Yeah.
So, like Quaker Oats, it's $4.99 for the canister of 10 cups. Or I can buy a bag of oatmeal that is $16 here in Idaho. $16, and it's probably 36 cups or more.
Yeah.
So that reduces cost, whether it's flour or spaghetti sauce.
It's such a great way to get in control of that spending.
If you can find things on sale, you can buy double, and it's not crazy, it's not tons, but you can buy double of what you have, and then you've got some in your cupboard.
Yeah.
And so you're able to buy it when it's on sale. And if you look, the stores every 4 weeks have a rotation of sales. So if you watch, whatever you want is going to be on sale sooner or later.
That's interesting. Is that how they get rid of their back product, their extra overstock?
Yes.
Okay. It's a good thing to watch for. Great. What else do you have on this magic list here?
It says, everything is yours, you own it, problems included. Well, right now, I have a small house and limited amount of space, so limited amount of things that we can put by. So I've got issues with that, because some things I'm like, oh, I want oh, never mind. That is no way that that's going to fit right now. Because something was on sale last week, and I just was like, oh, no, not going to happen.
Yeah, no, when she's talking about a small house, she's talking about a really small house. And mine too. I mean, when I lived in the yurt, it's a really small space. So I didn't do very much food storage in the yurt because I didn't have a lot of space and I didn't have anything temperature stable. This is actually kind of bringing up an obstacle or a concern about your food storage that as we're telling you how magical it is and how much it can accomplish for you, we certainly don't want to make the mistake of just jumping into it if you don't have a location, if you don't have space for things to be dry if they need to be dry, temperature stable, because there's nothing worse than putting your savings into food and then losing it.
Yes.
I actually lost some beans, some black beans, and I have the kind of personality where I try to overdo everything, and so I didn't just do 1 can or load of black beans. I did an entire shelf of black beans, like a year's worth of black beans. And then I didn't have the cellar made, and I had thought I'd put them in the house while the house was being worked on, but the glass didn't work. So anyway, I left them in full sunlight in the middle of summer, and I lost more than half. It's really depressing.
That is no fun. That is no fun.
No,
at all.
But I will say that if you're afraid of things like that, probably there certainly are going to be mistakes anytime that you're trying a new skill. But also, just do things in small amounts. Just don't be crazy like I was. Just do a little bit, and then if you do have a problem, it'll only be a small problem.
Yes. Small problems fixable. Even large problems are still fixable.
Still fixable.
You know, she talked to me too long after what happened. Because she could have reprocessed those things. Mm-hmm. She could have brought them down to someone else's fridge and just given them away. You know, because other people would have eaten them quicker.
True.
Because larger families, and you do know a couple of those.
I do. See? She's got me. So my favorite thing about food storage is actually a less tangible thing. It doesn't have much to do with my bank account, doesn't have much to do with what in particular is going on the table for dinner. It has to do with something very interior, something that I feel inside. And that's about a kind of power of self-determination. I've heard it said that there's wisdom in having some items of value that are yours, even if you don't have much, just keeping something, the expression of a few coins in your purse to jingle together. And I think that that's what I do with my food storage. It's very satisfying to be in a space where you are surrounded by your food that you like to eat, and it's very reassuring to know that you have some amount of food. So I think for me, I actually don't think in terms of a massive disaster scenario, and I don't think in terms of 10 years out or even 5 years out. I think in terms of a kind of sense of wholeness or satisfaction that I get when I feel secure, when I have enough food that I know I'm okay if I haven't planned dinner, or if something happens like a broken leg or a out of work accident, those very real disasters that I don't want to be stressed out about, and also just that kind of sense of satisfaction that my food is right where I can see it.
Yeah, that's really, really good. One thing that you brought out is that food that you like to eat.
Yeah.
There's no way that following someone else's plan, because lots of plans work, following someone else's plan and having a whole bunch of wheat if you're gluten-free. Mm-hmm. It won't work. Mm-hmm. So you need to store what you eat and find things that you like to eat. Mm-hmm. Because you said, you do not want to be in that situation where all you have on your shelf is things that you're like,
Right, and then you're your own punisher. You've punished yourself that you have, that's awful, right?
That's awful.
I have to eat all of this because I started it.
Yes.
Don't go there.
It's okay to let it go. I mean, so
well, sure.
I have a funny story. So I canned rabbit. Well, I canned rabbit on the bone, and I canned the whole rabbit. Well, then I got pregnant, and it just looked like little rabbit fetuses in the jars.
Right.
And I couldn't eat them.
Yeah.
I couldn't do it. My family still did, but I could not. And so that means that night with meat, I didn't have meat.
Right, so you can't be sure that your own tastes won't change either.
No.
So maybe we're not the best for teaching you how to do a kind of survival prepper pantry. Maybe we aren't the right people to go to for those skills, but I hope that you can take some of what we're describing that we use in our family lives and translate it into whatever your particular needs are. And we also invite anyone who stores food or has an interest in storing food to share your thoughts in the comments as well.
Start small. Don't get discouraged by little things that go wrong. Just keep trying.
And if that doesn't seem enough in the instruction capacity, Joanna and I are going to meet again, and we'll tell you next week more about the how of food storage. So this one has been our talking about why you should do it and some ideas that may or may not be your prime directive as far as why you would do food storage. Next week, we're going to share with you some of how we do it.
Good.
So this has been the Homestead Wife Skill of the Month Club. Thanks for hanging out with us, and we'll see you next time.